So Felix Auger-Aliassime has one of the cleanest forehands on the ATP Tour, but the real reason he generates so much effortless power is all because of the way he loads his body and creates that racket lag phase, really storing energy from the ground up all the way into the contact. And that's what I'm going to break down for you today, and you can apply it to your game as well. So the first thing I want to have a little look at is how he starts in that ready position. He starts with the left hand on the throat of the racket, and the right hand on the bottom of the handle is in a really it's in a strong semi-western grip on the forehand. So he's not full western and he's not eastern, it's somewhere in between. But I would almost say, from my opinion, I think he's almost closer to a eastern forehand grip, but it's a strong semi-western. And the reason he uses this grip is this grip allows him to generate a lot of heavy topspin whilst also being able to accelerate through the ball. So you get access to the best of both worlds using that grip. You can hit heavy spin forehands, but you can also really accelerate through the ball. So when the ball's been hit by his opponent, he's going to initiate his unit turn, and this is where he gets his shoulders side on, but you can also see how he uses the left hand on the throat of the racket to actually help him in that preparation, and he keeps the tip of the racket facing up during the unit turn. So we can see how the tip of the racket is pointing up. He keeps the left hand on the throat of the racket. He's also finding that semi-western grip on the unit turn. And this is how he's preparing nice and early for the shot. So here we can see the racket's, the body's coiling back. His shoulders his chest went from being pointing at the other side of the court to now being side on towards the people on the side fence. You can see that the spectators would now be able to see his chest sideways to the court. So here we can see just before the ball lands on his side, he actually has a separation here with the left hand on the throat of the racket. So as the ball's sort of on the rise up to him, that's where this separation happens. And we can see how he keeps the tip of the racket pointing up, and the strings are also facing the side. So the strings aren't below the shoulder. You can see how the racket is above the shoulder line, and this is where he's going to start to straighten out that left arm, and this is used for the spacing. So these players, they get that left arm out to the side to really help position themselves in the right space between them and the ball. And they do this so you can almost imagine when the ball's coming in, the ball's not going to get under the arm. He's going to keep his spacing with his body and make sure the ball's on the outside of that arm, almost a whole arm and racket's length away from his body. So here we can see his elbow position is not close to his waist. There's space here between the waist and his elbow, and he also has a bend in his elbow. So we can see here he's got that bend, and this position he's in here is very similar to how Alcaraz sets up, but Alcaraz still has that left hand on the throat of the racket. So that's one key difference in the set position. Alcaraz keeps that left hand on the racket slightly longer before opening up. The way Aliassime does it is actually quite similar to Roger. I feel like his forehand is got a few similarities to Dimitrov almost, and Roger Federer in the setup position. So you can see how the strings are still facing the side. The racket is pointing up, and he has quite a high preparation with the racket, because you can see it's quite far above his shoulder height, but also you can see it's above his head. So some players actually, like Sinner, he actually has a slightly lower preparation. So maybe this takes a little bit more time to prepare, but it's a really good forehand setup. It's kind of that Spanish style forehand. And also one thing I want to notice is how he has this little bit of a hook grip on the forehand. So when you use a semi-western forehand grip, you should try and create this little hook And that just gives you more control on the ball. You'll see almost all the pros, you'll see there's that tiny bit of space between the index finger and the rest of the fingers. So now we're going to have a look at the next phase. We can also see in this position how he's got that weight on the back leg. And the reason he's put that weight on the back leg is so that he's going to be able to drive from the back leg into the front leg and get that energy from back to forward, creating momentum into the ball. So here we can see he's loading in the legs, and now the racket's going to start into the racket drop. So the racket's going to come down. He's still really loading. You can see his quads are really engaged. And now the strings have gone from facing the side to almost pointing down. So we can see there's that high preparation to down position, or the pat the dog position, some coaches say. And this is so he's going to be able to get under the ball to create the topspin, but also into the racket lag phase. So we can see how here, his wrist is nice and relaxed here. The butt of the racket is down, or the tip of the racket is still up. But now you're going to see this wrist lag effect. And with his hip, with this hip here, he's going to rotate that hip. It's going to snap, so that energy is being transferred through his kinetic chain, through his right leg into the hip, but then into this rotation, this is what creates this loose whip racket lag effect. So we can now see how the butt of the racket's up, down, pointing down, but now it's going to whip, and he leads with the butt of the racket almost pretty much pointing straight towards the ball here, and the tip of the racket's now at the vents, and the strings are down here. So now this hip has uncoiled, and this energy that he stored through his core is being transferred through his hip into his core, and then this is being transferred through his loose arm all the way through his forearm into the wrist, putting that kinetic energy straight out to the contact point. So he's not forcing this position. It's nice and relaxed, very, very Roger-like. The only slight difference between Roger's forehand or Alcaraz's forehand, they use a similar style, is Alcaraz actually has this bent arm on contact. So it's not that bent, but there is a slight bend in that elbow, whereas Roger and Alcaraz have that straight arm forehand that you see in slow motion, where they really extend that elbow out to the contact, whereas Aliassime actually keeps it a little bit more like Sinner, and he uses that double bend in the elbow. Quite often this creates, you're able to create a little bit more spin and whip on the ball, whereas the other forehand kind of really lets you hit through the ball out on contact. So here you can see he's making contact out in front of his body, and for a lot of club players this is a real key for you to be able to make sure you're making contact all the way out in front of your body here, and you're not getting jammed up and making contact too close to your body. So you should always be thinking, imagine, can you contact the ball out in front of your body and not have it sort of in line with your body? And that's a real key when you're trying to create a really heavy forehand. So now I want you to have a look how he extends through that contact, and then he's almost gonna turn the forearm here, and that shows you how much he's covering the ball to get that access to topspin. So he's really driving through contact, but now he's covering the ball, so the hand has gone from being almost in that position to the palm almost facing down. So that you can see here how the tip of the racket is all the way out here, and the palm of the hand is now turned down. So that there's a slight turn in the forearm to be able to do this. Whereas some club players, what they do is they open the hand the other way, and that's when, if you lose control on your forehand, the ball goes long because you've opened the racket face. So now you can see the butt of the racket as he comes into the follow through. The butt of the racket is pointing down the other end here, and that shows you how much he's committed to the follow through. It's whipped all the way through, where some beginners, they forget this part and they almost stop early on contact and don't follow all the way through. And as you can see here, he catches the racket with the left arm, and Roger Federer does this a lot. He likes to, especially in practice, he catches that racket so he can go straight back to the ready position. When he goes into his split step here, you can see how he's caught the racket with the left hand, and he's come straight back down into his ready position. So hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something. If you want to work with me one-on-one online, just check the link in the description, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks again, Jack.